Welcome back to another edition of the Balas and Skene Show. This is post Oregon, probably as bad as we thought it would be. And in fact, Doug Skene is this week's staff picks winner, 35-16. I think he had it, and they tacked on a late touchdown there. And then we had a couple people complaining about it. I said it's not Michigan's job to complain; it's Michigan's job to stop them down there at the goal line. What's more humiliating, watching a team take a knee at your 2 yard line, or letting them score? I think it's letting them take and watching them take a knee, but that's just me. So regardless, Skene, not
It's a
ideal.
50-50. It's a 50-50. And I think I don't remember the starting lineup for Oregon entirely, but I think they had their second string offensive line in there at that
Did they?
point. Did they
Okay.
not?
I don't think so, but
All
it
right,
doesn't. It
maybe I was
doesn't.
wrong. I thought at the end of the game, I thought I saw a couple unfamiliar O linemen there
Maybe.
in there for Oregon, and they punch it in. The guys want to score. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like it was 63-3 and they put another one on the board. So
No, that might still be coming later this season.
yeah,
So we'll talk about
look
that.
out.
Yeah. So he's Doug Skene, Michigan's five-time Big Ten champion, former All Big Ten offensive lineman, played for the New England Patriots for Bill Parcells. So he knows what he's talking about. And Skene, that's why you're here. We're going to talk a little bit of offensive line here in just a second. This was really another one of those games where I'm watching and I'm saying, where's the improvement? And I'm seeing a little bit of it in pass protection, but I'm not seeing it in the run game. The run game is going the other direction. And that was what really disappointed me. The negative plays, and you and I used to count these, right? Back in the
Mhm.
dark days, we used to call them, right? And it was not good when you would have several negative plays, especially on first down, and you're putting a quarterback who hasn't played much behind the sticks. And we saw a ton of that from the get go. I didn't think the game plan was great to go horizontally against this fast defense. And at the same time, they didn't get a whole lot of push up front either. Now, Sherrone Moore said he thought they got some push up front early, but then things kind of fell apart and there were too many run throughs. And you made an interesting point when we were talking about that in our text exchange with the former mullet punter, Chris Stapleton, that the run throughs are things that you should be not be dealing with at this point.
No, no. So let's go back, Balas. The first play of the game, the first offensive play of the game, I don't understand it, and I'm going to be a little critical here. Did you notice that Hinton and Link were flip flopped?
No.
Hinton played right tackle in that play, and Link was on left. I thought that's a little weird, and I
Yeah.
had to run it back. I'm like, why is 78 playing right tackle? For some reason, he was over there. And so we run basically a wide stretch or a sweep play to the right to Hinton's side, right? Oh, okay, whatever. And then it's a tackle for loss for 4 or 5 yards. Well, that defender came basically unblocked because the defensive lineman, I think it was the former kid from Michigan State who transferred out to Oregon, was
Derek Harmon.
lined up on the inside shoulder, almost in the C gap, right, or the B gap, wide B gap, what we call a 4-eye technique, inside eye or inside shoulder of the tackle, or let's just say straight in the gap. The play structure and the way it was attempted to be blocked, the right guard, Al Hadi, was trying to reach out, stretch, and block that guy, right? Hinton immediately takes off to his right. Al Hadi takes off to his right to try to stop this defensive lineman. Well, gosh, what years were it, Balas, where you and I would sit and watch those film plays and just say, that's impossible.
Yeah.
Steve Hutchinson couldn't make that block. It's just the greatest lineman to ever play may not be able to make that block. It's just dumb football. So what I don't understand is why you'd still try to run that play against that front with that defender sitting there, knowing that your right tackle is bailing and your right guard has very little chance with a proper angle to get there. So, okay, why do we not have the ability for the guard and tackle to see the situation? So the situation was a tackle sitting in that B gap, and the right tackle's got to get out to the edge. There's no one immediately standing outside, right? Why can't we just gap and fold that? It's a simple call between the guard and tackle. And the way this works is the guard looks over and goes, oh shit, this is a really bad angle for me. I don't think I can get this block. So you call something to your tackle, and the tackle and guard just flip responsibilities. So I'm going to call a gap and fold. You can call it, whatever you want. The right tackle comes down and blocks that defender down inside because it's a much better angle. And the guard basically pulls to replace what the tackle was trying to do. It makes angle sense. It makes football sense. But that's not what we do. we try to block almost something that's impossible, and we end up with a negative play of -4 yards. And it's just whether it's 1st and 10, the first play of the game, or whether it's 1st and 10 in the middle of the third quarter, it just doesn't make any sense. So why can't we do these kinds of things? And I just thought to start the game off this way was a bad indicator. And then later, talking about Sherrone, yeah, we got a few good pushes and we had some decent creases in there. I thought Donovan Edwards played his best game of the year,
Yeah.
by the way. And there's some truth to that. But then we've got linebackers darting through and they're unblocked. Well, why is that? Well, we're just not keeping an eye on guys. And when linebackers dart through, when you go to combo block, it's the responsibility of both of those guys to have eyeballs in that linebacker, because if he comes through, I have to vacate now. And this is normal football, Balas. And this is something that happens regularly in practice when you're practicing against the first team defense. It happens in game one, it happens in game nine. Why we still have linebackers darting through our gaps and combo blocks is beyond me at this point in the season. It should be cleaned up. It should have been cleaned up a long time ago. It shouldn't be happening at this time.
Yeah. So that's an indictment, I guess, on the coaching staff. And I hate to say it because I like these guys. I like Grant Newsom. But when Sharon Moore said that in the post game, it kind of raised an eyebrow. Like, who's he telling this to? Right. When he says
Well,
we had,
for me,
yeah.
it's if I'm Sherrone Moore and I know I got linebackers running through my gaps on
Hmm.
combos, it's like I'm going to my offensive line coach and saying, "Hey, fix this.
Yeah.
Get with your guys and fix this." And it's Sherrone as the head coach is sort of like a manager of a business, right? It'd be easy for Sherrone to jump in there and just start coaching them himself. He's got to give Grant the room to grow in his own role there and fix this stuff. And so, it was a little eyebrow raising 2 weeks ago or a week ago when he jumped in the offensive line, and I read the story that he kind of lost his shit and was screaming at the O line. Well, that's
Yeah.
Grant's job. That's Grant's job. And so Sherrone needs to get up in Grant's face and light him up, and then Grant can go light up his offensive line, because it's not good enough to have free linebackers. This isn't some exotic, unusual thing. When you combo block and you're comboing down lineman to linebacker, somebody has him under no circumstances at week 9 should a dude be running through a gap unblocked.
Yep. He's Doug Skene, Michigan's five-time Big Ten champion. And Skene, what's interesting to me is you look at the guards, and actually, the Grant Newsom, we had him last week, and he said, "Look, I asked him specifically about the guards because you could tell that Josh Prevey did not have a good game against Michigan State. Gio
Mhm.
Elhadi played with a little bit more aggression, and he said I challenged Gio a week ago, and he said and he played better against Michigan State. He played with a little less thinking, a little bit more aggression. He said Josh did not have a great game, and I told him that, and this is so the big concern to me is regression. If you look at Elhadi's played pretty good football here, not great
Yeah, he
football,
has.
but he has played good football here in the past. And of course, when you've got a guys that have played on the line next for a long time too, that's going to help. But
Mhm.
and then Josh has been all Big Ten at Northwestern, and I watch some of the things that are going on up front, and I'm saying this should be better. And I get that it's a revamped offensive line. I think Miles Hinton's playing okay
Mhm.
at times at left tackle. In fact, probably better than I expected him to at left tackle. So I give him credit. But other than
Yeah.
that, the right tackle play, Evan Lincoln is in there now. They've got a couple guys down. Gentry and Percy are probably going to be. Gentry's out for the year. Jeff Percy got hurt on Saturday, so Evan Link is. I think he's improved a little bit at right tackle, but that was the
Mhm.
worst right tackle play, with all due respect, that I've seen here at Michigan in my several decades, and at least in pass protection. I think he did okay run
Well,
blocking. So
I would argue with that, Ballas. I think
okay,
during the Rich Rod years, there was some
okay,
pretty brutal offensive line
okay,
play. Link
yep,
Link is a he's a physically talented young guy,
hmm,
and he's got the capabilities. I mean, what was it? It was the Michigan State game. He got out of his stance, got out to the right, and one of those scoring touchdown plays there. Really, really impressive block, and he's got the tools to do it, and we've seen him do it, right? But
yep,
he looks like a young guy out there.
yeah,
Some of his pass sets are a little turned too much, and some of the way he engages with guys in pass pro, he's got a little bit too much turn in his hips and his shoulder to the sideline, allowing a defender to have an angle advantage on him. So he struggles a little bit from time to time, which, having gone through it, watching guys over the years, is kind of normal.
Hmm.
It's unusual to see a guy get in there and be technique sound at that age. And I think Link is going to be a fine tackle in the
Yeah,
future. So I,
I
I
don't.
would not put him in, I would not put him in the category of the way you described it. But at the same time, compared to what we've been used to, Carson Barnhart over there at right tackle last year, just a little cleaner, right?
Hmm.
And our standard of Michigan football offensive line play is pretty high, right? You and I talked about it over the years. You're talking about Jake Long and Jeff Backus and Steve Hutchinson and some of the greats to ever play the position. Steve Everett at center. This is what we compare the standard to,
Yeah,
and maybe that's a little unfair, but it's not.
it's Michigan.
You're playing offensive line at Michigan. That's the standard,
Yep.
and so they should be better. And the guards specifically, the number one thing that when I watch El Hadi and Preed play, the number one thing that drives me up the wall, and I saw this again against Oregon, it's a passing down. Everybody knows it's a passing down, and you've got blitz protection, right? You're in your pass pro, no matter what it is. You get back in your stance, and if you're uncovered, meaning there's not a defensive lineman immediately over your head in any way, in any shade at all, if you're uncovered, you're helping. If you're a guard, you're helping the center or you're helping your tackle, one or the other. And you've got to check blitz inside to out oftentimes, right? So you come out of your stance, you're immediately looking at a linebacker over you or your first blitz threat. And if he doesn't come, then you've got to flash your eyeballs outside to see if something comes outside. It takes a split second. That's normal stuff. Most of the time, there's not a blitz. And when there's not, and you're in a true help position, now it's time to have some fun. And now it's time to take some aggression out on some defensive linemen that will happily crush your quarterback and rip his head off if he can. What I don't understand is when our guards are in help position, we are not lining up a crosshair on someone's rib cage and the side of their helmet to go blast the living shit out of them when you have a chance to. And that's the part that I don't. It's like, fellas, you got the green light, a free shot to go impose your physical will on someone to slow their ass down and stop getting after your tackles or your center the way they have been. Why aren't we taking the shot? And I don't know the answer, Balas. I'm not pretending to know the answer. It's either practiced, it's encouraged, or it's just inherently in the DNA of the player. And I had the fortune of learning how to do that over the course of time. I was not that guy when I got to Michigan, but I learned how to be an absolute brutal jerk on the football field. Other guys just show up that way and they will rip your head off if they get a chance. And we can talk about the names over the years. The first one I ever saw was Dean Dingman. You watch him play in the help position, good God, have mercy on your soul if you're one of those defensive linemen and he was the help guy next to you. You were going to feel it.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I just don't understand, Balas.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Maybe are we coaching it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it being coached and it's not being executed? I don't know. But in any case, it's not happening.
It's scary enough seeing a big guy like Dean Dingman come at you. And then you got that perm under that helmet coming too, leading the way. It's not quite the mullet. It's not quite the mullet from Chris Stapleton, your punter, but it's still,
All
you got
right.
that perm under there,
And
maybe a little
so
mustache. And
And
yeah.
so I remember plain as day
Yeah.
when, our last couple of years at Michigan, Kakuzo was the right guard, I'm the left guard. We'd go up against an odd front or whoever's the uncovered dude. It was like, oh, yes,
Yeah.
I cannot wait. You get to the line, you're uncovered, the pass pro, and you kind of glance to your right, you kind of glance to your left. One of you dudes is going to feel it here in about 15 seconds.
Oh, man, I
And
miss
we,
those days.
we used to
Yeah.
just absolutely light dudes up in practice, and you
Yep.
practiced it, right? Now, I
Yep.
understand you can't practice that anymore because of the way college football has changed and the
Hmm.
full-on practice that's allowed. But come game day, dude,
Yeah.
we would light those dudes up, and then there was a little reminder, don't come back or it's going to happen again, right?
Right.
Something.
Yeah.
And it would, over the course of the game, it would slow defenders down.
Yeah.
It would.
I'm getting a little tear in my eye here at the memories. So those were
So,
great.
okay, so flash forward, this doesn't take special talent.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You either learn it or you just have it. Either way, it can be done. And so it's just an overall aggression when given the chance to go light somebody up. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
Please.
We saw Trevor Keegan do it. We saw
Oh, yeah, Keegan did.
Yeah.
So yes, last year's group of offensive linemen, Keegan did it on the regular. Zinter did it.
Yeah.
And then we can go back in time over all the greats. And it's a
Yep.
long list, Ballas. There's
Ben
been a lot of
Bredesen.
great
Ben
offensive linemen
Bredesen
in the last
loved it.
20 years.
Yeah. Yep. So it sucks.
So
I do think Evan Link will be playing guard next year. You talked about him being a great tackle. I do think they'll probably move him to guard. They got a couple of young tackles they really like. Blake Frazier
he's athletic enough.
eventually.
I mean, the kid
Yeah.
can move,
Yeah.
Ballas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. So regardless, it needs to be better, and that's where it starts. I do want to give credit to Davis Warren, who continues to improve. And I said, it's amazing how many people were like, "Oh, he's got 6 picks, and he'll always be a turnover machine." And I said, it doesn't work that way, man. I said, guys improve. Guys have a tendency to improve, especially when they get a little bit pass blocking, which again I think has been a little bit better. To me, on Saturday, that wasn't the issue. I thought that Warren. There were several occasions where he had plenty of time to throw, and guess what? He's throwing some dimes. In your opinion, was the pass protection better, and
Pat,
why?
yeah, pass protection has
Hmm.
been better. And it always starts with the proper sets, right? And
Hmm.
understanding what your threats are. So your pre-snap threats as linemen get into a season and you're scouting an opponent and you go through the drills in practice, the play starts before you even get in your stance. You come out of the huddle, you're immediately looking at the front in front of you, and you know which way protection is set, left or right. You know where your help is, and then you immediately, in a matter of a couple seconds, you evaluate your immediate threats. You've got a gap to be responsible to protect. You've got blitz inside out to check on, and all this happens in about 2 or 3 seconds. And then you get down in your stance. And you've got a couple scenarios that could play itself out, assuming the play doesn't get changed at the line, which oftentimes it does, or it should, it used to. And so this is how it all operates. And so the ball is snapped. You know where you've got to get your pass set, which definition of a pass set is the position in which you put your body before contact. You got to get yourself in relation to your guard, your tackle, your center, or whoever it is out there. And so Michigan's doing a better job of setting their pass sets, preparing for contact, and it's resulting in better pockets and a little bit better time in there. It's not entirely clean Balas. I mean, he's got pressures and he's still getting hit after he throws the football, and that's always me over the course of our time doing these podcasts. It's always me again holding the standard
Hmm.
which we were expected to hold, and the ones we've seen Michigan offensive lines hold before, which is the rule is Balas. You know the rule.
Nobody
No
touches the
one,
quarterback.
no one touches the quarterback. Period. No one touches him. And so if that's the standard, then when I see Davis or Orgy or any of our quarterbacks having to move around, find space, or because they're being flushed out, well, that's not perfect pass pro, and that is the expectation. So, but that doesn't matter. And your point is that Warren has done a nice job of keeping his eyes downfield, finding his way around, bailing out of a pocket, and he likes to bail to his right. Obviously, right-handed quarterbacks do that, keeping his eyes downfield. And maybe the underrated thing that I watch him do now is get rid of the football. If it's not there, just get rid of the football, and we'll go to second down, third down, or we'll even punt. Just don't put it up for grabs. So the overall play in the passing game has been better. We're still a tight end based passing offense. We're looking for Colson Loveland because the kid's just outstanding, right? And he's finding a way to get open. I just wish we had more production out of the rest of the passing game. And
Yeah.
we've got some guys that are trying, and where the ball is getting a little bit more diverse in who it's going to. But overall, the entire passing offense is still among the worst in the United States.
Yeah, and we
It
were
just is.
watching. You and I were both watching games this weekend. I was watching college games. I was watching Michigan State with Nick Marsh, and Aiden Childs had a couple of picks. But you look at a downfield receiver like that, and I can't remember the last time I saw a Michigan receiver running free behind a secondary against anybody. For
Now, is that because of the way we design our routes, or is that because we don't have the
doesn't
physical talent to get there? I don't,
I can't imagine that once in a while. Okay, it was Cornelius Johnson right against Ohio State, probably right,
yeah,
where okay he gives him a little move and they're playing I think cover zero,
yeah.
and he gives him a little move to the inside, and it was a terrible play by the defensive back, and he turns him around and makes a play. But I can't remember the last time they had an easy score where you're like, hey, there's a pitch and catch and there's an open wide receiver, and this is Michigan, man. But
Is that because we're not designing it? Is it because the offense has been
no, they've taken a couple shots. Fred Moore in the
okay?
first game. Remember Fred Moore in the first game, and it was
Yep.
underthrown by Davis Warren. But regardless, it's tough to watch, and everything is so labored. This offense seems so easy to defend, and you're putting and again, part of it is, when you've got an offensive line that's not doing a whole lot and you're behind the chains a lot. And a couple of decisions, and I want to go back to the
Oh,
third
by the way,
quarter.
behind the chains, Balas, I
Yeah.
texted you, right, when I watched the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. The negative
Our
plays.
our first down yardage in the first quarter total.
Yeah.
I think there were 4, 5, maybe 6 first
Yeah.
downs in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Our total first down yardage in the entire first quarter was like 4 yards.
Yeah. That's insane.
It
And then
was
you
the
get,
first 2 first downs we had was
I
-5
know,
and
I know.
-2.
Thanks for reminding me. And then we had, I remember the plays well, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a shit show. But we get to the third quarter, and you've got Davis Warren's throwing the ball pretty well. You're coming back a little bit. You're 2 scores down. You've got Alex Orgy in the game on 1st and 10. I'm like, well, is this the right time for this? And then they get a 5-yard penalty. So it's 1st and 15. And you're still going to
Mhm.
run the ball for 2 or 3 yards. And I'm like, okay, you better bring Davis Warren back in. But nope, they leave Alex Orgy out there. Now it's 2nd and 13, and you're playing behind the sticks. The good news is that Davis Warren finds Tyler Morris over the middle with a really nice 3rd down throw. But
Yeah,
the odds of that are like 10%, right? With the way that
yeah,
Michigan's been converting on 3rd down. And by the way, they're 109th nationally in 3rd down defense, too, which we'll talk about in a second, which is unbelievable to me. But you've got to put yourself in better positions. And if you want to run that 4th and 3 play on 1st down or something with Samaj Morgan throwing back, or some gimmick like that, that's fine. But you don't run it on 4th and 3 when it's all or nothing, right? If it's not there, then you're screwed because
yeah.
you don't have Davis Warren out there to make something happen like he did on the first 2 touchdown passes. So that was just a terrible play call. And Sherrone Moore said, "I'm not going to second guess that or the play caller." Well, I am, because that was just a
That's what we
travesty.
do, right? Was that reminiscent of the TCU playoff
It
game?
absolutely was. You're trying to outsmart yourself. You're at the 2-yard line. There are different
Yeah,
times to run that play where if it's not there, then you tell the guy, okay, just throw it away into the stands. But when it's 4th down, you don't have that option. And
yeah,
you're really not fooling a whole lot of people. And that's exactly what Dan Lanning said, the Oregon head coach. He said, we knew that to watch out for anybody leaking out. Didn't matter who it was, whether it was the quarterback or whatever, because that's what they like to do. And you don't
yeah.
do it on 4th down. And I know it's hindsight, but I would say that 10 times out of 10. So just really some head scratching decisions on Saturday.
Well, there's no question about that, and it's easy for us to sit here and say so, but you're going to make that play call. It's a low percentage, high risk, high reward kind of thing, right? But I think the conservative football in my mind would be I want the ball in my quarterback's hands, the one who runs the biggest breadth of the offensive playbook, and I want to get obviously we want to see if we can get Colson open. And if not, then someone else needs to find a way to get open. And oh, by the way, it'd be lovely if Donovan Edwards could get out in a pass and we could throw it to him because he's a special athlete out there as well. But we don't seem to do that with any consistency. And that's why you are what the statistics say you are. And you're among the worst in college football in passing efficiency in a few different categories, total passing offense. So it's not surprising. And maybe that play sheet just looked like, you know what, our chances of success in our core offense are so low, we'll go to the trick play. I don't know what these coaches are thinking, but the result is not good.
No, it isn't good. And it's not going to get any better next week, in my opinion. We'll talk about Indiana in a second, but I want to talk about the defense. And I do want to give them credit for coming out in the second half and playing better football. They were
Mhm.
challenged. They came out and they had a chance a couple times to make that a 1-score game. And other than the last drive, they gave up 3 points for the majority of the second half without their 2 starting corners. And that's okay. You got Zeke Berry out there playing corner. He's your nickel and hasn't played there all year for the most part, as Sherrone Moore said. You've got Amir Hall, and they gave up a couple over their heads, and that's going to happen. But at the same time, I thought they battled. So I want to give them credit for not quitting, right, in the second half. And to me, they showed a little bit of heart coming out in the second half and playing pretty decently at times.
Well, I would say it for the whole team, Dallas.
Hmm.
One of the things we have not seen, at least I haven't seen it.
Hmm.
And I don't, and I want to be clear. My complaints about lack of aggression about the offensive line and positions where you can go drill somebody, that's not the same as accusing somebody of not trying hard, right? I think those are two different things. And I haven't seen anybody mailing it in, going through the motions, jogging when they shouldn't be jogging. We've seen that over the years from some really bad Michigan football teams. That's not the case here. And so, yeah, defensively, they have a tendency to do this. I mean, it's the best part of this Michigan football team is our ability on our defense to do some things, specifically in the box. And so this team comes and goes with how good they are. Let's not forget, Oregon's really good football team,
Hmm.
really good, and they're really well coached. That head coach and his staff, they got every little trick, and they're fundamentally sound in a lot of ways. Will they win it all? Nah, we'll see. But they're going to be there at the end, I think, in the playoffs to have a say so with who does win it all. They're definitely going to be in the top four. Um, when you go through a season like this, Balas, and I've tried to explain this before in some of our discussions, the defensive guys know the offense struggles in certain categories. It's really easy for finger pointing to start. And I don't think that's been the case on this football team. I look at, when I watch a game on television, I certainly look at the body language on the sidelines after the play and before the play. How's the interactions going? And I still see a football team that seems to be together, and they're still rooting for each other. They're still trying hard. The X's and O's aren't going the way that they should, maybe, and we can criticize the coaches for that. But the defense did rise up, and there was some pressure on that other quarterback, and he's really good too. But it's just not enough when there isn't enough experience, reps, and talent. We got guys playing out of position because of injuries. And oh, by the way, as a football season progresses and you come up against opponents who are really well talented and really well coached, it gets harder. You've been scouted. Every play and every step you've taken has been scouted and practiced. So to go out and execute, it gets harder as the season goes on. You're not fooling anybody anymore, as we saw on the
Yep.
fourth down trick play. So for Michigan's defense to come up and rise up and do what they did, outstanding for them. I expect them to do the same. I just don't know that the Michigan offense is going to be anything other than what it is. And we
Yep.
just can't seem to get above 20 points. And it's hard to win games when you can't get above
Yep.
15 to 20 points.
Yep. Your thoughts on Davis Warren's improvement? I think he's getting better.
Yeah, he looks more comfortable out there, right?
Hmm.
I watched the body language, and you can see before the snap a lot of inexperienced guys. You can see they're in a hurry, they're rushing, but
Hmm.
he's got kind of a smoothness about him. He surveys his offense. He's got his eye on that play clock. He knows when to call for that football, and so he looks comfortable. That's the first sign of good things that can happen out there. And then he's comfortable within the pocket when he's got the ball in his hands. He's trying to get it where it belongs. He's still looking for his tight end because that's his best option. And so, yeah, it's an improvement. And so it just sort of is what it is. But collectively speaking, this is an offense that struggles to score a lot of points, and therefore
Yep.
we're going to lose most games because of that statistic.
Yeah, you look at Indiana, and Indiana is a well-coached, physical football team. It's funny. There are some things that I'm going to write in Friday's article, inside the fort. We talked to a pro scout on his thoughts on Indiana. This is a very good football team, and this is not. Everybody looks at Indiana and says Michigan's going to go down there, and this is just Indiana, and Michigan's going to, you know, I can't believe they're a 14-point underdog, and I'm thinking they'll be lucky to lose by only 14 points, the way that they're playing football, especially if they're shorthanded again, because this is, as much as I've made fun of Kurt Signetti, and I say this all the time, that, Google me, I'm a douchebag, do Google me, you know,
Is that what he said? Did he
he
say
didn't,
that?
he didn't say I'm a douchebag. He said I win. I made up the douchebag part, but
Oh,
yeah, but he does kind of seem that way when you say something like that, right? But he's a good football coach, and that's a good football team.
it's
So
kind of like row the boat guy ballast. We like to poke fun at these guys, but
yeah,
when you take that part away and we
yeah,
stop giggling about this stuff,
yeah,
he's a good football coach.
yeah. It's
You may
funny.
not like the way he does things. You may not like the way he says things and all
Yeah,
the camera stuff and all that
yeah.
stuff. And I like to make fun of PJ Fleck about over the years. But the dude, look at Minnesota now. They're
I
winning.
know,
This
and
guy at
yet they're not.
Indiana, we can giggle that it's Indiana football all
Mhm.
you want. Every year is different, Ballas. And
I
look at
know.
this Indiana football team. They play fundamental. They don't give a rip about what anybody thinks. They're
Yep.
undefeated, and they're going to show you why they're for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, and I think they're going to take out 50 years of aggression, as somebody said, on Michigan on Saturday, and they're going to rush the field, and against a 500 Michigan team because it's Michigan, and
How do you've been to Indiana?
I
I've
have.
played in Indiana. I don't know how
Yep.
you rush the field. It's like a 12-foot drop. from the front
Uh,
row of the stage there.
there are a few broken ankles. I think they did it last time in the COVID year when they had like a
Well, you
couple
get
hundred
hurt.
people in the stands. I know
You
they
get
don't.
hurt in Indiana. I don't recommend you rush the field in
Okay.
Indiana. You're going to take quite a fall down there.
Well, they'll figure it out. There are some stairs going down, obviously, so they'll figure it out. But they're gonna rush the field. We know that. So, regardless, this is a good football team, and it's gonna be tough. So, I don't see it getting any better. We're gonna have to talk about that in the post game scheme. But to me, if you look around the Big Ten, you got three teams, right? You got well, maybe four. Penn State showed who they are again. They showed their ass in the rivalry game. So,
Shocker. Here's a shocker. James Franklin can't win a big game. The
no, and
word the worst big game day coach in college football, James
right,
Franklin. So I got to get a hold of my Penn State buddy Rucci and find out how long is Penn State going to put up with a 10-2, 9-3, eleven
yeah,
and 1, which is good. It's good, not great. And if
yeah.
you're Penn State, you want it all. I don't. This dude can't win a big game to save his life.
No, and you look at Nebraska though, when they had 9-3 over and over and over again, and then they blew it up, and
Hey, we
now
know
they
what that feels like,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. And it took Jim Harbaugh, the best coach in America, to fix the thing. And that's what scares me, Skene. And we'll talk
Yeah.
about that next week because you've gotta be well coached. It's not just about talent. We can talk about buying talent, but you've got to be well coached on top of that. Alabama had great talent, but guess what? Nick Saban was a damn good football coach.
Mhm.
So the same thing with Kirby Smart and Georgia and what they do. So the same thing with Jim Harbaugh eventually. So we'll talk about that next week after Indiana's win over Michigan. I mean, after the Indiana Michigan game. So I hate to say it, but prepare yourselves, folks.
Hey,
So
yeah, like I keep saying, you are what your record says you are,
and
and
this is
Michigan's just not very good this year.
not very
It's a
good.
fact.
Yep, he's Doug Skene. Thanks, Doug. We'll do this again next week.
All right, go blue.